Sure, I think Marquette's been really attentive to aggressively reinvesting in buildings, which on the outside lend a sense of gravity to the campus because of the style of the architecture. But yesterday in the morning, I did a pretty extensive tour and was in some buildings I'd never been in before. And it's amazing what's able to happen inside these older buildings. Yeah. It's costly, as you mentioned, but it's necessary. Sure, I don't see, I've worked at Georgetown at the University of Scranton. I've never experienced any sort of conflict between a commitment to academic freedom and the university's identity as Catholic and Jesuit. There might be a little bit of a healthy tension. It keeps us on our toes, but certainly we're absolutely committed to academic freedom, and one of my responsibilities as the president is to protect that against any sort of encroachment. Yeah, I've met, as I said, with a fair number of faculty over the course of the past year, and I've assured them that I will defend their academic freedom. I deliberately did not revisit with them the events around the search for a Dean of Arts and Sciences. I wouldn't second guess what happened when I wasn't here. We have an acting dean, a Jesuit, Father Phil Rossi, who's agreed to stay in that role through this coming academic year. And I met earlier this week with the department chairs in Arts and Sciences to get a sense from them of how we want to do this search and when we want to do this search. The how is right now clearer than the when. We want to make sure that we identify the expectations for the person who's going to move into this role, what it is we're looking for, a balance of a whole lot of skill sets. This is one of those needle in the haystack kind of searches where, Jesus on a good day probably couldn't qualify for this job, given all the hopes that we have for it. But we also want to be clear about process. What is the role of the search committee? What's the role of the provost? What's the role of the president? And have as transparent a search as we can possibly have. No, I plan to teach in the spring. Okay. I've already talked to the chair of the English department. It looks like that will be a go. It's the best part of what goes on at a university. I mean, I really think of classrooms as sacred spaces, and the exchanges that occur between faculty members and students is something magical. From New Jersey, so it goes without saying that I've listened to a lot of Bruce Springsteen in my life and seen him in concert more times than I can count. Sure, I've committed publicly to spending most of this year listening and learning. So I think it would be presumptuous of me to parachute in here with a plan complete in every detail for what we should do at Marquette. I need to learn the culture here. I need a clearer sense of our shared aspirations for the institution. Sure, I think it's really important that we work hard together, the university community, to sustain and enhance our Catholic and Jesuit identity. And it's no secret that the number of Jesuits here is a whole lot fewer than it would have been when you were a student here. And so we've got to be much more deliberate about inviting people to explore and hopefully embrace the Jesuit spirit of education. This level of athletics is new to me as an administrator. I taught at Georgetown, I went to Georgetown, so I'm familiar with that level of play from a spectator's point of view, not from a president's point of view. So the first thing I want to do, and this is already underway, we're going to bring in peers from other universities to take a look at our athletic operation and give me a frank assessment of what do we need in the next athletic director. I'm hoping we'll have a new athletic director by the end of the academic year. So this assessment, this peer assessment, is already underway, and once I have their report, I think we'll be ready to move forward with a national search.